How's everybody doing? Is there anybody excited? One of the first things we learned was nothing happens till you get excited. And
thank you.
And man, Sajal brought it, didn't she? Wow. I was like, I told Michelle, I said, you got your running shoes on? Anyway, we are Alan and Michelle Leininger, and we are from, the Tampa area, because nobody knows where Odessa is, and they think that's Texas. And, but that's cool too. We got any Texas folk? Wow.
Awesome.
Well, welcome. Okay, how many of y'all this is your first event with LTD? Let me hear from you. Now let me hear from you if you were not born yet in 1988. Awesome. Just to prove that the business works, okay? You weren't even born when we registered. So I learned very quickly that if your friends don't get in, just wait a few years, have some kids, and you'll have some downline. Right?
Right.
Do we have offspring in the room?
We do. Yes. And actually,
Okay, go ahead.
Quick story about that. Alan used to babysit when he was younger to make money. And one of the kids that he babysat for actually got in our business years later. So you never know when your downline's going to come
good
from.
seed, you know?
That's right. Okay.
So, stats.
Stats. Okay. We are Alan and Michelle Leininger, and...
Well, wait a minute. Okay, somebody was up here earlier talking about...
Oh, we are high school sweethearts. So there was somebody else in the room that were high school sweethearts. We actually were both 16 years old when we started dating. And let's see. So we've been together for a while. We've been married 38 years. And
that's impressive. Come on. It's impressive that she would put up with me for 38 years. That's what's impressive.
And we do have 4 grown children, adult children. Lauren and Les have a daughter, Presley, so that was our first
a granddaughter.
Our first granddaughter. She's 2 years old.
I know that's tough, but
yeah.
We have to accept this phase of life.
And then our second daughter, Kristen, married Zach, and they have a daughter who's also 2 years old, and she is actually due with her second daughter today. So I told her she had to wait until I got back on Monday before she could deliver. Now, she probably wasn't too excited about that. If you've been pregnant, you know what the end is like. You just want to have the baby, but...
But she knows how effective our prayers are.
That's right. And then our son, Aaron, is in the room with his wife, Kaylin, and they just had their first son. Yay! They just had their first son 3 months ago, so we also have a grandson. And our other son, Joshua, is in the room with his wife, Kelsey. So,
in fact, what's interesting is both of our sons would not have the wives that they have if we hadn't have built the business.
Right. Because
they were offspring.
Offsprings.
Well, one was an offspring of one of our IPOs.
So anyway, they were in the. They met him in the business, I guess. So
that's right.
Yep.
Anything else? Go ahead. Jump in.
Okay.
Dive in.
Okay.
These people are waiting.
Got it. So anyway, we did get started in business 35 years ago, which is, it's hard to believe that we've been in business for 35 years because it seems like it's just gone like that.
Can you believe Joe was single?
I know. Joe was single when we first got in the business. That's true.
Yeah, Mary Beth was one of his organizations.
Yeah.
We came from Mary Beth.
That's right.
So Joe inherited us from Mary Beth. That's why he married her.
I don't think that's why he married her. He married her because he loved her, not because.
Oh, I know that too. I mean, that's more important, but
Anyway.
in fact, I think the Harris organization came from Mary Beth too.
Yes, they did.
Wow. So Joe married up.
So when we saw the Amway business, we were, I'll give you a background on us. We were newly married. I was working as a computer programmer, and actually Alan was an engineer at the time, but then he had decided that he was going to leave engineering and go to medical school. And basically when he made that decision was basically when we saw the business. So we decided that we would start an Amway business because we needed some extra money, because he was going to be quitting his engineering job and starting medical school, which costs money. So we thought, why not start a business of our own to help pay some of the bills? So that's kind of why we got started in the business. And, you know, we just wanted the extra money. And we needed the extra money, really. And so we decided to start our journey in building the business. And, you know, if any of you, let's say you're in a car and you want to go across town or go to something, you know, our kids live about 45 minutes from us. And every time we get in the car, we pull up the maps on our phone because we want to see.
You pull up the maps on the phone.
Because you want to know the destination. Because you want to know, you know, what's the best route to go? How are we going to get there the quickest? You know, which one has the obstacles? What are we going to encounter? Do we have to go around detours, you know, and all this stuff? And especially when we're on a journey for a long distance, you know, it's funny, our phone will pull up and say, oh, there's, you know, a crash here, and it's going to delay you 30 minutes or 45 minutes, so you're making adjustments as you go, which is a nice feature. I mean, you guys have no idea. When we first started driving, we didn't have these cool apps like that. We didn't even have a cell phone. And
we had MapQuest, and it didn't work.
We used to have to print out the directions to go to these people's house that we were showing the plan to, and half the streets weren't even right on the MapQuest. So anyway.
It was a 50-50 shot. Flip a coin. You might get there, you might not. That or they told you the wrong address. I don't know either, you know.
That's right. But, you know, we got used to going on journeys now where we know all the obstacles and stuff. And I will say, in building this business, you're not going to have that maps on your phone to tell you exactly your journey. You know, we have amazing upline in Joe and Mary Beth. As awesome as they are, they could not tell us our exact journey that we were going to have to go through to build this business. You know, they could maybe help us in getting around some of the detours that we had to take or some of the obstacles, but there's no way they didn't say, oh, Alan and Michelle, your journey is going to take 45, you know, well, I was going to say minutes. That would be nice, wouldn't it? If our journey was only 45 minutes. But they couldn't tell us that, oh, it's going to be 5 years to diamond for you or anything. They couldn't tell us that because they didn't know. And, you know, and you're not going to know exactly what you're going to have, what you need to do to build the business. We didn't know. We had to make adjustments along the way. You know, we just decided that we were going to start. And really what we had is we didn't have, you know, the Maps app on our phone telling us our journey. What we had is a compass. You know, we had a direction of where we were going to go in this business. Our direction is we wanted to go platinum. Quickly, actually, because I just knew at Platinum we could make some money to help make up for, you know, his lost income, and we could pay our bills. And so, you know, we had this set out that, you know, we wanted to do that, but we didn't know what we would have to encounter in going on that journey that we started and building our business. And, you know, there were some obstacles. There were some detours that we had to take. There was some things that we didn't expect. But what we did is we just continued on the journey because we knew the direction of where we were going. And, like I said, we wanted to go start platinum qualification, and that didn't happen. And that wasn't the only goal that we set that we didn't hit. But one of the important things that I learned through that time is don't get discouraged. Just get up and keep going. And, somebody was talking about resilience. Yeah, you have to be resilient. You have to get up. You have to go again, if you're not hitting those goals and stuff. But one of the most important things I think I learned is that I had to look at the journey that I was on. Yes, I didn't, maybe hit that particular goal, but look how much closer I am to that goal. So many people, beat themselves up for not hitting a goal. And I'm saying, look at how far you've come. Look what you have accomplished and be excited about that, because I knew that, if we continue on this journey, I knew that I was a better person just because of some of the things that I was learning and overcoming and building this business. I was so afraid of, selling a product to anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody about products, about our business or anything. And I don't know how I thought our business was going to grow if I didn't talk to people. But what I learned in our journey in building the business is that I could overcome fear. And I could, accomplish the things that we had set out to accomplish. And that, I was growing as a person throughout our whole journey in building our business.
There were obstacles, just like you'll have them, but that's why you're a part of a system. That's why we have, the books and the audios and all that to help you through that, to encourage you. That's why we have, people that have gone before you. It's kind of like the old saying, do you want to walk through the minefield by yourself or follow somebody? I don't know about you. I'm going to follow somebody. And, our upline they've already stepped on a lot of mines, and they'll help us to avoid stepping on those mines. And, that obviously, shortens the process up a little bit when you can follow their footsteps. And Michelle, like she said in the very beginning, she didn't even want to. In fact, I remember her booking her first beauty clinic, okay? And she did not want to do it, but she finally just said, if I book it, then I have to do it. And so she just went ahead and booked it. Yep. And then she figured it out, okay? Then obviously it got easier as you go. I should say this. Everybody thinks, we thought we were different, right? We thought our story was unique. We thought our life was unique. And that's how a lot of people kind of view things, like their situations are unique. And the reality is, we're really not all of that. We may have live somewhere different, or have a different family situation, or a different job. But the fact is, we're all going to have to overcome little things, or sometimes even big things. But we're all going to have to overcome. And that's all we did. We learned how to overcome. Medicine was really, it was something I thought about since I was 8 years old. That's all I wanted to do. And everything I did was towards that. Even in high school, I wrestled my freshman year. I think I won Southeast Ohio, and they were trying to get me into the varsity team. But I said, my goal is medicine. So I decided I needed to be valedictorian of my high school class if I was going to do that. I needed to have, good grades. And so I dropped out of wrestling. I dropped out of playing football. I dropped out, and all of that wasn't a big deal because I'm small. Okay. And, I played basketball, all that kind of stuff. But I dropped all of that, and from freshman year, halfway after the wrestling season on, I focused on studying. And I used to work out and stuff like that, so I was in pretty good shape back then. But they accredited it to the fact that I was always carrying books. And they called it the Alan Leininger bodybuilding course, okay? Because I, was always carrying books, and half the time I was carrying hers too.
Yeah, he would carry my books to the class
that's what you do. I don't know if they do that anymore, but carry your girlfriend's books, okay? And some of y'all are like, what? Okay. Well, we were born before 1988, so relax. Okay. And so, but that was because I always had a passion to help people. I always wanted to help people. And so I thought, well, that's like the ultimate of way of helping somebody. Be a doctor. I was gonna be a neurosurgeon. And so that's kind of where that all came from. So when we started our business, it wasn't to replace my career. It wasn't to redirect our future or vision, nothing like that. It was to make enough money to not get kicked out of the house we're living in, which, by the way, was not by any means, it was 1,295 square feet, okay? And so anyway, Amway for us was a secondary thing. She was working at a big company, doing very well. She was an engineer back in that day. I mean, that was impressive. And you know, I was leaving my engineering job. And so we started our business in the middle of me, after a few months, being in medical school. Okay, so there's some success stoppers, I call them. And one of them is, have you ever heard, well, I just don't know if I got the time? I mean, really? Okay, let's talk about time. Let's try medical school while you're building Amway. And I like, earlier, Sejal was talking about, you just fit it in. And what I would do is I would actually show people the business during my 30-minute lunch break when I was in med school. Or on the way home, I'd stop at somebody's house, okay, or whatever. In fact, our first FED weekend, like Summit this weekend, I had exams on Monday, my first set of med exams on Monday. So I was a part of a study group, and they were all so mad at me because I was gonna be gone that entire weekend when we were supposed to be cramming for 3 straight days for our exams. By the way, I went to the conference, and actually at that conference is when I mentally made a decision that I was going to redirect our path, and that was my decision. But I did take all my exams, and I did great on all of them, even not studying all weekend, so that was pretty impressive. But anyway, and so then we, you know, redirected, not because anybody told us to or anything else, not because we were making a lot of, I think we were 1,000 PV, maybe. We were one-legged thousands, okay? And I know that's not proper, but it's what it was. And so we weren't really making any money yet. So it wasn't like we had, you know, this massive foundation laid and walked away from our career. No. I walked out of medical school at 1,000 PV in a leg or two because of what I saw. And this is just our story. It's not, and by the way, that's not to say anything about if you're, you know, a doctor or whatever. I still highly respect that profession, and I still think we could have served very well there. But then I found this, because you know what I saw? I found that I could help people here too. In fact, in my mind, what I saw when I saw a Coliseum like this, wow, I could maybe help way more people in this environment than I could that environment. And that environment was just based on me. How many people could I perform surgery on? This environment was an environment that I could pass it on. We could have multiple, and how many people could my gifting influence into their gifting? And if we could do that, then we could affect a lot more people. And that's why I made the decision. It wasn't a financial decision. I mean, at the time, I mean, come on, neurosurgeon, Amway guy. You know, we were making like $42 or something, okay, or whatever it was. I don't even know if it was that much. But the fact is, you know, when you know that you know that you know, you don't really have to ask anybody. I did ask her, because she was my wife. I said, I'm thinking about leaving. What do you think? And here's what she said to me. She said, Alan, I married you, not your career. I don't care what you do, I got your back. That was kind of our moment where I was like, okay, she's got my back now, I can't play games. And so, but we had some things to overcome, no doubt about it. And you know, when we first got started, I didn't really have a quote unquote, somebody earlier talked about a positive mental attitude. You know, we didn't, I can't say I had a positive mental attitude. And so I started hearing about this positive, you know, we went to, back in the day, there was a thing called product pickup. Y'all don't know what that is, okay? But we would go to product pickup, and I saw this jar, and it was called the Nagy jar. And I'm like, what is that? And there was a little jar, and there was some not a lot of money, but a little. And I'm like, what is that? And they said, well, if anybody says anything negative at product pickup, they got to ante up. I'm like, what does that mean? And so they explained it about having a positive mental attitude, encouraging people and things like that. Well, you know, I got a bit of sarcasm in my being. And so lifting up people wasn't natural. Being creative with sarcasm was. And so I had to start working on me. And so they talked about books. And so I started reading things, and I started saying positive things. But I don't know how genuine they really were. And so here's what I discovered about, for me, this is what I discovered. Yes, a positive mental attitude helped us immensely. But I didn't really develop a positive mental attitude till I changed my belief system. So you can say positive things all you want, but if you don't change your belief system about it, then they're not going to have, it's not the same. When my belief system about things changed, when all of a sudden I started realizing, you know what? Everything is going to be okay. Everything will work out. So therefore, since everything will be okay, it's easy to be positive when you believe everything will be okay. When you're not sure if everything will be okay, you can say all the positive you want, but you still believe not. So to develop that PMA, I had to develop a new belief about what my life, what our life, what it could actually become. You know, we had a few things in the beginning, like, you know, indecision. I mean, you want to talk about, you know, it took me a while to decide which way to go, to be honest with you. It wasn't an easy decision for me. It's something I'd fought for and done. I was 25 years old. It's something I'd been working towards since I was 8 years old. That's a long time. Would you agree? Decisions that I made, things that I did. I ran volunteer rescue and EMT before we saw the business, only because I wanted to get into med school. So I figured that'd be another little thing in my resume, okay? And she went to EMT school with me. Not because she wanted to be an EMT ever. She just wanted to be with me. And since I was going to class at night, working during the day, going to EMT school at night, she went with me so she could spend time with me at night, and then we get up and go to work. So when I said, you gonna run rescue? She's like, no. In fact, we had to work the emergency room for 6 hours, something like that.
Yeah, I was praying that nobody came in.
She's like, please, no emergencies tonight, just nobody, okay? Anyway, that's how much my wife loves me. So, but we had doubts. Would this really work for us? I mean, when you're deciding to divert, maybe, in my case, I was deciding to convert my whole career path, or my life, so to speak. Not that, you know, at that time I even saw Amway as that, but I walked out, there was doubt. What if this doesn't work and I leave medical school? They're not really that excited about letting you back in. Kind of like once you walk away from it, you've burned your bridge. You burned it, you blew it up, you nuked it, it ain't there no more. It's in space somewhere now, okay? You ain't finding it again. So I was like, okay, this decision is, there's no backing out. And so anyway, so there was doubt associated. You might have doubt. Maybe your story is probably very different than mine, but it's just as important to you, whatever decision is you're making. This just happened to be my example. You know, we had fear of criticisms. You've heard that tonight. We were worried, okay, what is my mom and dad gonna think when I leave med school? What are Michelle's parents gonna think? What are my friends gonna think? Well, I tell you, we got what is wrong with you? You're throwing away your career, you name it. We got all of that. You know what? We knew what we had seen. Here's more importantly, we knew what we felt. We knew what we had felt, and we knew it was right for us. And so because we knew it was right for us, once the decision was made, the fear of criticisms didn't matter anymore. You know, your self-image wasn't the greatest in the world, right?
That's right.
You didn't want to speak in front of people. In fact, our first team meeting,
Yeah, so our first team meeting, it was Larry and Pam's Larry and Pam's team meeting, and well, they split up the guys and the ladies, and so Pam wanted all the new ladies to stand up and say their name, and I'm like, I am not standing up. And I remember Mary Beth turning around and looking at me like, stand up, you're new. And I'm like, I've been in for a while, just haven't been around, but I've been in for a while. But
Because you were in Chicago for 10 weeks in training while I started, so it was the first team. In fact, it was that Saturday you came home.
The day I came home.
And she hadn't been to anything. So she's like, oh, I've been in for 3 months.
Right.
Well, I'd been in for 3 months. But anyway, okay. Got to wrap this up. But anyway, we had some, wrong thinking. Here's some wrong thinking for us. Could we really do it? We're not those kind of people. I wasn't the stage guy. I wasn't the, Larry. I saw Larry show up. I'm like, oh my God, I could never do what he just did. That wasn't me. That wasn't my personality. It wasn't my character traits or anything like that. So I had some wrong thinking about only certain types of people could do that. You know why? Because society had taught me that only certain kind of people can lead. You know what I found out? For me, that's not correct. What I learned is this, that if I could just find what I was good at in my gifting, that I could be a leader too. And I believe this. I happen to believe that everyone in this Coliseum, yes, everyone, 100% of you, have the potential to lead, every one of you. And it's not what you think, though. What I found as my gifting was I actually had a compassion for people, believe that or not, okay? I do. And I wanted to serve people. But then here's the mistake I made. I tried to lead with a personality that I didn't have. Because I had a wrong thinking. In my thinking, certain personalities were leaders. I found out that that was not right. I found out that you can be any kind of personality and lead when you actually find the gifting that you have. And when you start operating in your gifting, other people want to know, how are they doing that? And they start following because they want to know what you figured out, that deep down they want to figure out, but they haven't figured it out yet. And so because they follow you around, the world doesn't know what to call it, so they call you a leader. And all it is you figured out your gifting. My gifting was I wanted to help people. I wanted to serve people. I wanted to help. When I saw them hurting, I wanted to help them be better. I wanted their families to be better. It was one of those things. That's why I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to fix things. Well, you know what I found out? My personality is very different than Joe Markowitz's personality. My personality is very different than Larry Winter's personality. It's very different than Danny Snipes. And for the longest time, I was trying to be like them, thinking that if I could be like them, then I could be a leader. And I failed miserably. When I finally realized, you know what? I just got to walk in my lane. And it may be unique. It may be different. You know what? There's some great leaders in this room. I think of a Steve Fratercangeli. And you know what? Steve's person, he's not the out front, but you know what? He's an amazing leader. Very different personality. But that doesn't take away a thing. So you know what in my opinion, if you'll just think, what am I good at? What do I love to do? And I happen to believe this, that there is a gift in every single person here, that if you'll just find what that is, and you'll start cultivating that leadership will come by default, because people want to know, what is it about you? And it's going to look very different. When we went our business probably looked very different than Danny's business. Danny's business looked different than Jake's business. Then Mike's, all of our businesses are going to look very different. But you know what's going to have? It's going to have people that are operating in their gifts. So therefore, they're going to be full of joy. They're going to be full of peace. They're going to be happy. They're going to want to serve. They're going to love doing what they do every day of their life. And people are going to go, what are you people doing? I want to be a part of that. And that's how we go to 100,000 strong. Love y'all.